Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Head of Area 1 Police escapes injuries after he was shot at in White House, St. James. Growing pressure on government to make sexual offenders registry public. And later in sports, Jamaica set to face Dominican Republic in World Cup qualifiers. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. Head of the Area 1 Police, Acting Assistant Commissioner Glenford Miller and his team narrowly escaped death Wednesday night. This after coming under fire in White House, St. James by gunmen. The incident happened about 9 p.m. TVJ News understands that DCP Miller and the team tried to stop a vehicle with suspicious persons on board along Kent Avenue. The men then opened fire on the police, who returned fire. The gunmen fled the scene. In the meantime, a wanted man from St. James was fatally shot by police on Wednesday night at a guest house in Montego Bay. The dead man has been identified as Colin Walters. Walters is also a suspected member of the 13th Street gang. According to police reports, sometime after 2 Wednesday afternoon, the lawmen conducted an operation in the Tucker area. They went in search of men wanted for a murder that happened Tuesday night.
One Colin Walters. He is suspected to be the triggerman in the murder committed in the Tucker area last night. Upon conducting this operation, the members of the operational support team were fired upon by the suspect. Members of the team returned fire, and at the end of the incident, one man was seen clutching a Browning single-action pistol with 3 live rounds remaining in the magazine. We believe that this is the person identified as Colin Walters.
2 other suspects were arrested in another operation for the same incident. They are to be interviewed shortly.
We are asking that all criminals who we believe are involved in atrocities within the division, that they turn themselves in. If we list you as wanted or persons of interest, we want you to turn yourselves in. We will not relent in our bid to keep this parish safe, and as such, we will be naming persons of interest and wanted persons at this time.
Meanwhile, residents in Green Island, Hanover, took to the streets on Wednesday after police shot and killed 2 residents. The men are said to be brothers. The details from Kirkwright.
The dead men have been identified as Enrique Henry, 24, and Romain Harvey, 26. The incident has sparked conflicting accounts from residents. They complained about the actions of the police officers involved. This was head of the Area 1 Police, Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police Glenford Miller, giving the police's version of what happened after the incident.
So within the St. James space this morning, a rifle along with a handgun was actually seized and some persons taken into custody. In the Hanover space, a pistol was seized, 1 man arrested, and while the police had a search warrant, they went to Green Island, where they were actually confronted during the execution of the warrant. A man actually pointed a firearm at the police, who immediately defended themselves, and he was fatally arrested. Another man, hearing what was happening, actually running into the direction of the police with a firearm. And the police actually seized that firearm, and he was fatally arrested also.
But Indicom investigators say they have been told that no body-worn cameras were used during the incident. Indicom is urging anyone with information to come forward to assist in its investigation into the circumstances surrounding the deaths of the Harvey brothers. 5 men have been fatally shot in the Area 1 Police Division between Tuesday and Wednesday. 3 of the shootings occurred in St. James and 2 in Hanover. Kirkwright, TVJ News.
4 detainees have been charged in relation to the murder of 33-year-old Rakima Bravo, who died on Monday at the Chapelton Lockup in Clarendon. According to the police, unusual sounds were heard coming from one of the cells, prompting an investigation. Upon discovery, Bravo was found with a head wound allegedly inflicted by fellow prisoners. The Independent Commission of Investigations reported that 2 makeshift iron weapons were recovered from the cell.
Have been subsequently charged for the offense of murder. These persons are one Russian Williams, 33 years old, of Sweeney District, Clarendon. 2 Philip Russell, 30-year-old farmer of Shootout, Clarendon. 3 Marlo Headley, 23-year-old of Palmer's Cross in Clarendon. And 4 one Garrett Lindsay, 19 years old, unemployed, of Roden Hall in Clarendon.
No court date has been set for the men. The Clarendon police are again issuing a stern warning to migrating criminals seeking refuge in the parish. Anthony Lugg reports.
These wanted men were killed in different areas in alleged confrontations with the police in Clarendon. But they have one thing in common. They all migrated from other parishes. The Clarendon police have ramped up operations targeting crime hotspots in the parish, but there are renewed concerns migrating criminals could be driving up crime in some usually quiet communities.
The Duke Street area is normally a very quiet space, but in recent times we have seen some activities in those spaces where criminals from outside the parish has been coming in with the intention of carrying out criminal activities. But we are aware of them.
According to data from the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Clarendon Police Division has seen a 35% decline in murders when compared to the same period last year. Commanding Officer Superintendent Carlos Russell attributed the reduction in murders to targeted operations and increased police patrols. However, there's still a view that it will take more to crack down on migrating criminals. It's why he wants landlords to play their part.
We'd encourage landlords to do proper background checks and would-be tenants.
Meanwhile, the police seized close to 300 rounds of ammunition and 3 firearms last week. Superintendent Russell is warning that they will not let up.
We will not be able to remove migrant criminals from passing through the space. But we just want to warn them that our officers, they are out in their numbers on the street, and if they are coming into Clarendon, they will be stopped and they will be dealt with according to law.
Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
Transport Minister Darrell Vaz is proposing to fund road safety education with some of the proceeds from traffic tickets. He was speaking at the launch of Road Safety Month yesterday. Karen Simpson reports.
The country earns millions of dollars from traffic tickets annually. Funds Transport Minister Darrell Vaz argues can be put into use to help with efforts to prevent the carnage on the nation's roads. Mr. Vaz is proposing that some of the money be used for a sustained public education campaign on road safety.
The best thing that happened for me out of that meeting is that the chairman and the committee agreed and instructions were given to the various permanent secretaries to sit down and look at the numbers and to make sure that a cabinet submission comes to cabinet as soon as possible, which will have a revised allocation of how the funds from speeding tickets and traffic offenses are allocated.
Opposition spokesman on transport Michael Phillips agrees.
The minister, listened to my presentation yesterday. I'm happy that he did, and that we're speaking on one accord here today where road safety is concerned.
So what will the road safety campaign look like? Mr. Vaz is recommending that specific stakeholders should be engaged.
My own thoughts are that we should partner with the companies that manage and own the billboards across Jamaica, especially with technology now where most of all are digital. to really have some hotspots shown, educate the people as to where the hotspots are, in order to really jog the psyche of the motorists. You have to be vivid. You have to show them the realities of what really happens in a fatal accident.
For his part, Mr. Phillips wants road safety to be promoted throughout the year and not just for the month of June. Since the start of the year, there have been 176 road fatalities. Kerry-Ann Simpson, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. There is growing pressure on the government to make the sexual offenders registry public. This amid concerns that repeat offenders are targeting unsuspecting victims. The latest discussion was on the Beyond the Headlines program on Wednesday. Kirkwright reports.
The recent revelation that the suspect in the disappearance of teacher Daniel Anglin was a convicted sex offender in Jamaica and Antigua and Barbuda has renewed concerns about public safety. The registry was established in 2014, but access is restricted to law enforcement and other authorized entities. Gender specialist Professor Opal Palmer Adissa argues that making the registry public would help prevent such incidents.
Who are we going to protect? Our citizens and our children and our women, or are we going to protect those who are convicted and have been perpetrators of a terrible crime? So yes, I do think it should be public, and I'm very mindful that because of our culture and what we call community justice, that there could be some victimization, and I would certainly want to mitigate against that. But my first and primary concern is to ensure that people like this teacher and others are not victimized and killed because of a known perpetrator.
But Jamaicans for Justice Executive Director Michael Jackson opposes a public registry in its current form, advocating for a risk-based approach instead of an offense-based one.
For example, at the nature of the crime, whether or not there's likelihood of the person reoffending, and perhaps broaden some of the areas that are there. The last thing I want to point is that the categories that are there, I think they can be broadened and certainly strengthened, but I think the question that I would ask, are these categories widely known to the public? Are we utilizing the provisions under the registry before we say go wide, go public? So I think that type of assessment is going to be needed.
While the Advocates Association of Jamaica's president, Leonard Green, supports making the registry public, he's suggesting it should include an area to protect the rights of individuals who have committed minor offenses.
Our legislation, a person could get on that register by virtue of a simple offense of sexual touching in certain circumstances, which is really a parish court offense. So, although the original intention of the legislation was to protect people who are predators, we also have the caveat that we need very carefully to ensure that persons' rights are dealt with in a way that they are not discriminated against.
Kirkwright, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
The Development Bank of Jamaica, DBJ, has invested in Jamaica's first venture capital fund in over 30 years. In a release, the DBJ says the fund will be overseen by Delaware-based management company M-Scale LLC. Venture capital is a form of private equity financing that is provided by venture capital firms or individual investors to startups and small businesses that are believed to have long-term growth potential. The DBJ says the venture capital fund will focus on tech and tech-enabled firms, focusing on 4 key pillars: financial services, entertainment, agribusiness, and health. NVIDIA has surpassed Apple to become the second largest public company in the US. The AI chip maker's market capitalization rose to just over $3 trillion on Wednesday, nudging past Apple's $2.99 trillion market cap. That makes NVIDIA the second largest publicly traded company in the country. The company is just behind Microsoft's market cap of $3.15 trillion. NVIDIA stock is up 147% so far this year, after soaring 239% last year. For comparison, Apple shares have gained almost 2% year to date. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Hal Shane Burke.
Time now for the top regional and international stories. Head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.